I get to
Without
see
their
Auden
picture
in
up,
her,
we don't recognize anyone.
I get to see Auden in her multiple capacities now. I was just on a Zoom meeting with her for a city project that the county is supporting.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Auden. No
That's
reaction
fun.
from Chappie.
Well, maybe they don't need your sympathy. Hold on.
I know. I think Chappie's frozen.
Oh no, he can't
No, he
react.
did
He
it on
can't
purpose.
defend himself.
I do that too.
Okay, well, we're now live on
Yes.
YouTube.
Yeah, Chappie is frozen. Chappie, you may have to turn off your camera. How does he stay still for that long? That's good.
There he is.
Yeah.
It's like we just lost our chair.
Uh-oh.
Is anyone going to do the axe throwing, by the way, at our next meeting?
As long as they're not throwing them at me.
I mean, I'm kind of afraid of this. I don't know what this means.
Come on.
Hey, he's back.
There he is.
And Chappie will tell you how much fun the axe throwing is going to be.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Hey, you guys, I don't know what it is. I'm blaming Comcast, but for the last couple of days, I've just been having so many network issues. It's driving me crazy. So if you see me frozen smiling with a grin on my face, Margaret, take over. All right.
Let's see how long you can stay still like this.
Anyway,
Blake.
let's go ahead and do roll call.
All right, I'll call the roll. Jones.
Present.
Jones present. Abakoga. Here. Abakoga present. Flagger.
Here.
Flagger present. Constantine.
Present.
Constantine present. And Sayak.
Present.
Sayak present with 5 present. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Next is the consent calendar. And before I entertain a motion on the consent calendar, do we have any members of the public who would like to comment on it? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion on consent.
Motion to approve, Abakoga.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Auden?
All right, Flagger.
Yes.
Flagger, I. Sayak.
Aye.
Sayak, I. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, I. Abakoga.
Aye.
Abakoga, I. And Constantine.
Aye.
Constantine, I. With 5 ayes, the motion carries.
Fantastic. Now we're gonna go to the next item, which is consideration of approval for fiscal year 22-23 budget. And Joanne, if you can walk us through
Okay,
this
thank you.
item, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, again, this is a draft proposal, taking some of the input that I heard from the last meeting that perhaps maybe we need to raise our dues. Also talking to Margaret about how much they thought that they would like to offer a new acting executive director. And also hearing from Gary about the attorney fees. The last budget was a bare bones budget with nothing in it, just made so that we could balance the budget and then get some input. So this is still a draft budget. If you look at the option, the highlighted areas are the parts that have changed. The membership dues have changed. And I have 3 proposals for dues increases for you to consider. The acting executive director would be $166,530 total. That would be 30 hours a week at $100 an hour with payroll taxes included. And Then, I'm sorry, got a phone call. And then the legal fees have gone up to 84,000. Again, I don't know if that's the correct number, but I kind of took what Gary kind of was talking about, that he needed an increase, and just took a ballpark figure. So that adds up to $250,000 and $250,530. I then increased the insurance. It was 2,000 to 5,000. Again, this is a question because of our liability and claim.
Joanne,
yes.
could you tell me where you are looking at? Because it's hard when we got like 5 different PDFs. Which one are we looking at?
Great question. What am I doing? Look at proposed budget fiscal year 2023, option 2.
Option
Page
2?
28. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I have. I'm looking at the says City Association, Santa Clara County, proposed budget 2023, but it doesn't say option.
Option 2.
No, it does not.
Oh, you know what? Take a look from Auden sent it out as a separate email yesterday. So take a look in your email. You might find it there.
Yeah, I have all of those, but I thought this was the right one. So let me go back.
Okay.
So the one from Auden I have, it says association dues, but it does say, okay, option 2. That's what you're looking at. Okay, I got it.
And I did include the adopted budget for you that you guys adopted last year for reference. I don't know how much you want to spend time on that, but that was just sort of what you adopted a year ago as going forward. But a lot of things have changed.
Okay, so now you're talking about insurance, and I don't see that on. Is that gone back to the other?
No, look on the 4th category down on the first page. It says general office expenses.
Okay.
And then there's workman's comp, and then there's general liability.
Hey, Joanne, it might be helpful maybe if you could share
Oh,
your
okay.
screen to
Okay.
make sure we can make sure that we're all looking at the same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay, let me see how good I am at doing that. Let me see, share screen.
Okay, so
Because I was following along, but I might have been looking at the wrong document.
So it says budget proposal option 2. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Joanna, if you need assistance, I can share my screen as well.
oh, that would be great. You have it.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Auden. Perfect.
no problem.
Yeah, Rich, thanks for that clarifying question.
I'm just trying to follow, and the numbers that Joanne's talking about, I'm like, I don't see that.
I think we're
Which
looking
PDF
at
am I supposed to be looking at?
revised budget proposal. Yes.
Yes, right. This one right there.
All right.
Now, Auden, that link that you just checked from the agenda, that's not the agenda that you sent out to us, because I don't have that link on the agenda.
I sent out earlier in the night the budget items so you guys would have more time.
I have that, and that's how I'm looking at it. But what you just, it just looked like you just clicked on the link directly from an agenda, and I don't have that. I was gonna say it would be easier for me to, if I had that agenda, I could have just clicked on that.
Oh, if you go to our website where all of the
Okay, it's on the website.
posted, yeah. It's
Okay,
under the-
yeah. If you, in the future, if you could just send it out to all of us,
Sure.
because you sent out I clicked on the budget that was attached to the
Oh,
Zoom links.
the link.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one should have it.
It,
The
it-
link that was sent with the Zoom link.
Yeah, it didn't have the links. It just has the agenda, but it doesn't have clickable links. All right, so sorry guys,
No worries.
I'm up
We
to
got
date.
it. We got it figured out.
Okay.
Okay, Joanne, take it
Okay,
away.
so now let me see how I can scroll this down. Oh, there we go. Okay, so up at the top, let's go all the way to the top and start over. That's probably the best thing to do. Notes the changes. They're highlighted in yellow. So the dues revenue increases 80%. So it went from $150,000 last year to $270,000 this year. The new acting director's annual salary increased from the old budget of 90,000 to 156,000. And that added to that is a 7.65% employer tax.
Joanne, I'm sorry to jump in again, but my number says 166. You said 156?
Yes, it's, well, actually, let's just go down. Let's go down out into the, can you go down a little bit? Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing you guys are.
Yeah, so actually, it's 156 plus the payroll taxes. So the amount in the budget is 166,530 for the new acting executive director.
Okay.
Can I point out a tax issue there, or do you want to wait?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Assuming that we hire the person as an independent contractor, there won't be the 7.65%. If the person's an employee, then it's a whole different setup.
Okay, so that's good to know. So I think we have to make that decision.
Okay.
You may want to leave the money there so that there's money if you're going to switch to an employer in next fiscal year. If you're going to switch to an employer-employee situation, then you're going to need some fair chunk of change for that, for the benefits and so on, or the taxes.
Gary, can I
Sure.
ask a question? With AB5, does that affect whether or not we can even hire the person as a consultant?
I believe that I can set it up to where they are a consultant like Joanne. Now, if this is the temporary person, if they're going to be permanent and this is going to be all they're going to do, then we have to make them an employee. So that's why I'm saying we may not want to strip out the money because we might need it down the road, but then we are going to need workers' comp for that employee and whatever other things we have to have.
But also too, I mean, their compensation will be, however we have it structured will impact their compensation. So if they're a consultant, they're going to have a higher hourly wage than if they're an employee. So what I'm most concerned with is what is the overall financial impact of having that person, regardless of how it's structured. What is what's the impact?
We may want to drill down on that, maybe not now, but before the board meeting to see if to make sure that number is accurate.
Okay. All right, keep going, Joanne.
Okay, the next part is the legal of 84,000. So Gary can tell us if that's, and by the way, one of the things that Margaret was talking about is just having one consultant. So that would eliminate the bookkeeper and the clerk and IT support. And you may not want to do that either. That is something for discussion.
Right. And did I ever tell you guys that I hate lawyers until I need them?
Many people feel that way about me, Kathy.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Keep going, Joanne.
You see,
So again,
quite often, Chappie.
and that's why this is a discussion item, is because, I only spoke to Margaret, who was looking at hiring the next acting executive director and lumping it all together, but you may still want to sort it out and keep it in different ones. So that's a decision, again, that needs to be discussed.
All right, if I can jump in, I don't know if you can see my hand raised, but yeah, I'll be honest, it's a little tricky because we're looking for an acting director, and then probably by the end of the year, hopefully looking for a permanent director. And there's just some of these questions that we need to answer as to, as mentioned, if there can be an employee versus independent contractor. I'll also say the 30 hours a week may be high. And again, it depends on if we're going to go hourly or just straight salary, because we are dark in July, for instance. So it's not a straight 30 hours every week. There's ebbs and flows. So I think we just have to get, work those details out, but given that we needed to pass a budget, we put this number in. I think this is probably, it would be the cap. And we can probably adjust down if we need to, is my feeling, but this would just be a conservative number to go with.
Got it.
And if I could jump in one more time too, a budget is just a plan of how you expect to spend the money. You don't have to spend all the money that you've budgeted.
That is correct. All right, Joanne, keep rolling.
Oh. Okay, so then I upped the general liability, which is the insurance that we have, from 2,000 to 5,000, and I took away the Peninsula Storage Center because hopefully that won't be needed anymore, because that was done because Andy had moved out of state. And let's go down. Everything else is pretty much tracking the way it was, just looking at your figures. And there is a contingency if you take, there's a subsidy for the holiday party of $2,000. The reason for that is that you have a ticket price that you kind of want to hold to. And so you might decide to, because I think the general membership meeting and the holiday party are things that the memberships of the cities really look forward to, that we want to keep the ticket price down. So that would be a subsidy to keep that price there. And also if we use Eventbrite, there is a cost to using that service.
Okay.
And so this would, one of the things is that you need to start building up a reserve fund. So this would be a small start.
Got it.
So is it, let's see, can we go down a little bit more, Auden? So that's how it comes up with 270, and that's how I then put that number in for the dues options.
Okay. So that's option number 2, which is a higher option. And what's the differential between option 2 and the original base budget?
Let's go all the way to the top. I have it. It was last year. Go down a little bit. Autumn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, it's going from 150,000 to 270,000, and so your expenses are, before you had different ways of raising revenue. You used to be able to raise revenue through your membership meetings. You used to raise money because you got a lot of sponsors for those, which now you can't get sponsors. So that's how that. And then you also had a directory that we're not printing anymore, but people used to purchase the directory and you made some money off of that. So you had more money in your budget than the actual dues.
Okay. So we have a couple of decisions to make. One is the preference for the expanded budget versus the base budget, or 150,000 versus 270, and any potential modifications to whichever budget we select. So want to first hear from the board in terms of your preference on if we can even get support for having a larger budget, and if so, I want to hear your thoughts. Rich?
So I would like to get an answer as far as some of the variables that we have out, and the big one I'm thinking of is the roundtable. What are our plans going forward? I think I would like to know what our expected expenditures will be going forward before I can decide on which budget to pick.
If I can answer that, the roundtable is closed, gone, no more expenses. There were two things that you had expenses for that going forward you won't have that really were expensive. One was the roundtable, and the second was the planning collaborative. And we were paying consultants, that was a Baird and Driscoll consultants that the cities were assessed to pay into that have the planning collaborative. As you recall, we got a grant from the state through ABAG, and so called the REAP agreement, or grant, and we made an agreement with Baird and Driscoll to be our consultants for that. So for going forward, all we will be doing is managing that project. We won't be paying out consultant fees.
Okay. All right, that answers my question, Chair.
Okay, great. Nisa?
Thank you, Chair. And Joanne, you just answered on my list was Baird and Driscoll going forward. So your explanation makes a lot of sense. And that's great that we can use the grant to cover the work they'll continue to do. I was also confused about costs related to the roundtable, only because I know one of the dues proposals has a model that has the roundtable cities paying a differential. So how I look at the packet when I went through is what we're looking at in front of us is the proposed budget, which I support. I do have some specific questions, but I support the proposed budget. Then the next question is, what model are we going to use for the membership dues to arrive at the 270,000? And so I view that as a different discussion. So solely looking at the proposed budget, I support the increase in dues. I don't know how we not do that. And I do support the idea of having even a small reserve amount. Just some specific questions, Joanne. On the Peninsula Storage Center item, I know you mentioned that it's because Executive Director Jordan had left the area. I thought we were using it even before that, and maybe Margaret knows. I thought there was a purpose for it. If there isn't, great. But I just wanted to make sure that we no longer need that storage center and we can really take it off our budget books.
I don't know all the background facts, but I don't think this has anything to do, I don't think it was incurred, these costs were incurred on behalf of our former executive director, and I'd rather us not put that out there unless we were positive, and I believe that it was related to our business functions, so I'd rather not talk about where she lives either.
Right. So I'm trying to understand, though, Gary, and I completely understand.
I understand. Go ahead. Your question is perfectly legitimate. I'm just putting it out there that
you're
this has nothing to do with the
going
former
down a
executive
certain
director,
path.
for the record.
So just and I see Mariko, maybe it's Marika that could answer it. I just want to make sure we're not taking something off the books that we need.
And I actually don't know what's in the storage or how big it is, but I do know that we incurred those costs when I believe we entered into it, possibly when Larry, and it was either during Larry's term or my term, but I remember we had looked into it specifically because there were files, paper files, and I can't remember, I think it was Shantine, who did not feel comfortable that those were all in Andy's home and in our executive director's personal home. And so for that reason, the storage facility was rented out. I actually don't know whether or not it might be more just cost effective to just start to digitize those without knowing how big if they are.
I actually visited the storage unit just so I could be able to answer questions. It has easels, it's got supplies like name badges, it's got giveaways that were given at various events, and then there's probably 3 boxfuls of paper files. And the way I understood it is that we were going to have Auden, and maybe Auden can speak up to this, start to digitize those and archive them. And when I looked at those, a lot of the important information could be probably reduced to one box.
Okay.
Thanks, Joanne. So it looks like we're looking at a solution where we no longer need the Peninsula Storage Center. But I just wanted to acknowledge, and Marika's explanation actually jarred my memory. I knew we were using it for a specific purpose. So if we have a solution to take care of that storage then, or digitize it, that would be great. So then it would be $0 on the proposed budget. Then a couple other things, Chair, just quickly going through this list. For the dues revenue increase of 80%, it's really 120,000. So since this will go to the board, Joanne, I would actually put 80% or just 120,000. A lot of times when people see the percent, they're like, oh my gosh, it's increased by 80%. But I think seeing the hard number sometimes softens the impact.
Okay.
And so my suggestion for number one would maybe put 120,000. On the executive director annual salary, it's exactly what Margaret explained. We're putting a maximum amount in the budget just in case, because we don't know yet what that salary would look like. And so I just make sure that's clear, because when I read it, I also thought that we had decided that was going to be the compensation for the executive director. It doesn't sound as if that's finalized. So it's really just budgeting worst case scenario or a big enough amount to cover whatever we decide to do with regards to an acting executive director. On the actual, if we scroll down, Joanne.
Okay, I'm going to ask Auden to do that.
Under expenses, where it says acting executive director, because we're putting clerk and IT support as $0, we may need to identify here, and I know it's in the notes above, but just to clarify that the reason why clerk and IT support would be $0 is because it's part of the acting executive director amount. So that 166,000 includes clerk and IT support, because I can't imagine us functioning without an Auden Joanne or a Joanne doing both jobs. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And also the bookkeeping.
And the bookkeeping, exactly.
Yes.
And then I had one last question on the subsidies for the general membership. If I was trying to think how we save money, and it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because if we reduce the subsidy, then it may mean we have to increase the dues and both come out of our city pockets. But I'm curious, have we calculated, for example, for the meeting we have in June, how that would really impact the amount members will have to pay? Like, how big of an impact is $2,000? But if it's not a big impact, should we not even offer the subsidy and have members pay whatever it is? And that's the only area, honestly, Joanne, I thought, maybe we could save a couple $1,000. But apart from that, I support this budget. It makes a lot of sense. And I support increasing the dues. And I know we're going to have a secondary discussion about what model do we use to increase the dues.
Hey, Nisa, I just want to, great points. I just want to address one, because we're going through the process now of our June event, and we're trying to keep the price point at $65 and still have a nice event. And so we're having a discussion in terms of having funds available to subsidize a portion of it, just so we can keep that price point, because we feel like if we go above $65, then we're going to, deter, people from wanting to come to the event. So I just want to throw that out there as one of the things that's under consideration.
Right.
And then I'm going to call on Auden, who has an alias of 2 budget. Auden?
Hi, I just wanted to offer further clarity on the storage. I can't have my video because I have other functions going on here. But for clarity on it, I was brought on to help out with processing those paper records. There's about 30 years since the inception of the Cities Association, pretty much, of paper records. But we never were able to prioritize in our legal support, creating a retention schedule for those records. And so in the meantime, while we waited for that to rise up as a priority, it was Shantine, our previous legal counsel, had determined that it was a liability for us to be keeping these boxes in our personal homes. And so we had rented a storage, and maybe, I don't know if Gary might have further insight on that issue, but that was my understanding of the situation.
Thank you, Auden. Margaret?
Thank you, President. I just wanted to emphasize the importance, I know you all know, but part of wanting to, become a formal an organization with a formal status like a JPA is, as Joanne mentioned, we used to get sponsorships for our events, and I think we did make some revenue above just the costs of those events. And so that's my hope, is that we can get back to that model, which, I would hope would be an argument to get us going on the status formation. And, this is, I guess I really look at this as hopefully just a temporary, 1 year, 2 year type of budget too, because if we can get back into the sponsorship world, my hope is that we could even, look at lowering dues.
We can, let me jump in on this for a moment. We can examine that, but there's still some significant FPPC hurdles that might be involved with sponsorship. So I don't know that the JPA on its own will address that issue. We can certainly look into it. And I think you had indicated that Mountain View is obtaining sponsorships for certain things. So I can talk to your city attorney and find out how they were able to do that.
A lot of our events now are being sponsored by.
Okay. I'll talk to your city attorney and see if we can figure that out. But yeah, it would be difficult to do in our current status. It would be easier to do as JPA, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't know how to do it without having FPPC issues. It would need to be examined.
Okay. So any other questions? I know, well, there was one question about the dues structure. Would it be helpful for us to, Joanne, if you could walk us through the different options that were presented?
Yes. The first option is what I took as the roundtable formula of how they decided to assess the roundtable cities. It had nothing to do really with a roundtable. It was they wanted to assess the cities for money to fund the roundtable. So they used an assessment that was 50 cents for each city and 10 cents. 10 cents for San Jose and 0.5. Wait a minute, is that the right way? For the other cities. So they went through a formula, and you can see, first of all, if you look at option 1 on the left, it's how the cities were characterized this last couple of years. The next column is fiscal year 2022.
Through the chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, Joanne. Could Auden also go to that slide? I closed my document. I can reopen it, but it's actually helpful to see the document as you talk, Joanne.
Oh, thank you.
Where would you like me to go?
Bring up the option 1 dues.
All right, keep going, Joanne. It's up.
Okay, so it's up. So you can see that there's first column is the city, second column is the dues category that is currently being used. The third column is the dues that were assessed this last year, and the percent of the total amount that was $149,957 was assessed. And that shows you the percent of that 149,000, or almost 150,000. If you use the roundtable, you would look at the population. So I went to the LAFCO site to get the latest population for each city and used the roundtable formula to come up with the amount. And then you just plug in the amount of the budget, which I put in as 270, and you come up with the dues that would be assessed this year. So if you see Campbell would be assessed 11,000, which is $2,518 more than what they were assessed last year. Cupertino would also be assessed more. Gilroy would be assessed more. Los Altos would not be quite as much. One of the reasons I looked at this one was because the smaller cities, especially Montserrano, have said, why are we spending so much money? We're only a population of 6,500 people. So anyway, it comes up that Los Altos Hills, the smaller cities, Los Gatos, Montserrano, and Saratoga would be assessed less. Some of the cities would gain, and you can see how much they would gain from this past year in order to make the dues. Any questions on that?
Mariko?
Are you only taking questions now? Should we wait for comments?
I know we can take comments too.
Yeah.
My concern is it makes sense, and in this scenario, Los Gatos actually pays less, but I'm concerned the minute you put the word roundtable, people are immediately going to look at this and skew it into other things. And so your explanation makes absolute sense, but I'm just concerned it will, people won't even listen.
I agree with you, Marika. That's a really good comment. We should probably come up with another way of talking about the formula.
Yeah.
And I'm open to any suggestions.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult because that's where the formula came from. But I just wanted to share.
Anybody know how they decided on that formula?
Yeah.
No.
It might be unavoidable, Mariko. We can give it a cool marketing name, but if somebody asks, okay, well, where'd the formula come from?
I know it would be.
We're gonna have to have roundtable come out of our mouth. unless we're talking about pizza, I think it's unavoidable.
But
Lisa, go ahead.
I think, obviously we have to answer the question truthfully if asked, where did we derive this formula? But I don't think we need to label it as we have. It's just a formula that has been used before. Because when I saw it, I actually thought, wait a minute, why are we using the roundtable cities formula for this? But hearing Joanne explain it, now I understand it's in the app. We're just taking what was used for roundtable and applying it to the Cities Association. So maybe just strip the slide of the title roundtable in our staff report, or even in answering the question, Joanne, you can, if someone says, where have we used this formula before? It's from the roundtable, right. But I don't think we need to label it such.
So should we say dues assessed using something formula?
It's called option 1.
Yeah, option 1 formula, option 2 formula, option 3.
Okay, we can do that. And then number 2, any more discussion on this one first?
Yeah. Lisa, do you have another comment? Okay. Go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, if you put up option 2, I heard from some members, how come we don't base it on population? So I ran the same type of exercise using population. And as you can see, San Jose, being the big dog that it is, came up with a big amount. There's some, one of the things that we've always talked about the Cities Association is that every city has an equal vote. And if you started assessing dues like this, then people might say, well, we should have a weighted vote.
Well, to be fair, San Jose has always said that.
That part is true.
Except when it comes to putting money, then they say, no, it should be even.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. My preference. I know we'll go through all 3 options. My preference has been option 1. Option 2, I just see some pushback. I know San Jose is willing to take on a bigger expense, but going from 13,000 to 151,000, I think it's going to be a bridge too far. So that's why I had some reservations about that. Joanne?
Looking for any more input? Comments?
Lisa, go ahead.
I assume we'll select, and I'm teasing. I was going to say, I assume we're going to select the formula based on majority vote. And with all this red, I think majority may vote for this option. But I understand, President Jones, I hear your concerns. But there are definitely benefits to a lot of cities to go with option number 2.
And one thing that you don't have to offer all of these options. You're the executive board. You're going to send forward to the board what I can write a staff report then that this is what the executive board has decided. They looked at the current one and they looked at option 1, and we don't even have an option 2.
To the chair, Nisa, did you say you think they'll pick option 2?
All that red, yeah.
In self-interest.
Right.
But I agree. So if the ask today, Joanne, is for the executive team to recommend one of the 3 options.
Correct.
My vote is, I agree with President Jones that this may not be the best options for all our cities, including San Jose. I was half teasing Rich because majority of the cities here would be paying less. And so they could vote to support option 2, but that would put the burden on San Jose.
What? I'll wait till we have discussion before. Because.
So Joanne, let's go to option 3.
Okay. Option 3 is basically just increasing the dues, the current dues, to what in order to get $270,000 instead of $149,000. You just you look out on the 4th column. That's the percent of the dues that the cities were paying according to their category, which was the 2nd column. And then you just come up with the dues that they would be assessed in order to get $270,000, and the changes on the right of how much they paid this year versus next year. So, for example, Campbell paid this year $8,698. There would be a $6,962 increase to get $15,660 total. That would be their dues.
Yeah, Joanne, this is one of those where you don't really have to go into a lot of detail. It kind of jumps out at you. So all I know is that I'd be very hesitant to go to Montessorino or Los Altos Hills and tell them that their dues are going to go up by $5,223. I might do it if I'm standing behind Margaret and Nisa while I'm saying it, but other than that,
I absolutely agree with you. But you know what? I felt like I had to do these options because otherwise people would ask.
Yeah. So in the way my grandfather would have phrased it, that dog's not going to hunt on this option. Margaret?
Thank you, President. It's interesting. I start to question how we got to these percentages. For Los Altos Hills to pay 4%, but even Mountain View to pay 7%. That it just seems like there's not enough of a spread. So, I would, if we were to go this way, I think we should maybe even start from scratch and look at different percentages.
I agree with you. I have no idea where they came up with this small city, medium city, and the percentages.
You know,
maybe somebody remembers.
Mariko?
Actually, I was going to ask Joanne if she remembered, because if she doesn't remember, then now we're talking way back.
Way back. And you know, they've changed over time. They were never this large before.
Oh. I
But
mean,
the other thing that's really changed is the amount of compensation has changed. I mean, we're changing with the times, so.
yeah. Okay. I mean, one can argue, and again, I wish there was someone who had history of how the roundtable fee formula was calculated, because in many ways, whoever was at that table created a new evolution to our formula. I just don't know what criteria they used. And I'm wondering if once we figure that out, we might be able to share it better and message it better next week.
Well, I could certainly spend some time trying to go back, looking at the very beginning minutes of the roundtable for you, if you'd like that.
Do we remember which cities were instrumental in assisting E.D. Jordan and create? I know we had a subcommittee. I just don't remember who was on it. So. Anyone happen to know?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Saratoga had the chair that was the chair, the same person all the way through, or?
I believe so.
So they.
Did Joanne freeze or did I freeze? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
But we can't hear Joanne. Joanne,
I froze.
now you're having bandwidth problems. Turn off your video. That might help.
All day. I've had it all
Joanne, can you hear us?
day.
Joanne, I'm gonna go to Mariko, back to Mariko, and hopefully you'll be back on. Mariko?
I'm sorry, it was left over. I lowered
Okay.
it now.
No worries. Nisa?
Since we're discussing the options, President Jones, you know, of the three presented, I would support option one, and the fact that you, as the San Jose representative, is comfortable with option one, where I think you would still have the largest increase. That would be my preference. I mean, option two, it's obvious why. You know, I wouldn't support it, and I said that before. And with option three, I think we would need to redo these percentages to really make it work for the smaller cities, and that would be another exercise. And maybe, you know, we can have that be something the treasurer works with.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. I'm gonna let Nisa finish her thought and then
I'm
we'll go
sorry.
back to Joanne.
No. So Joanne, I was saying, of the three options presented, I support option one. Option two, it's obvious why. And then option three, I just think, similar to what you and Margaret said, I think we would need to redo those percentages, and that would be an additional step to figure out what really makes sense, especially for the smaller cities. So for purposes of this budget, I would support option one, but then also hopefully give direction to the treasurer and the new executive director to revisit the formula we use for dues. So for example, for option three, do we need to redo those percentages so that it's actually more fair to the smaller cities like Los Altos Hills?
Okay. Joanne, and then we'll go to Rich.
No, go ahead, because I'm going to ask you, because I'm sorry, my internet has gone in and out, and I was talking to Rania and I kept losing her today. So I'm having problems, obviously. but I'm not sure of the direction. So go ahead and get all the comments and then give me the direction of what you'd like.
Okay, Rich?
So I too am leaning towards option one, but without knowing how we arrived at the percentages, I would have trouble saying, well, picking a percentage that would be different from that, because I don't really know the formula. I don't really know what the basis would be.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. Looking at option one, and again, I don't have the knowledge of how they derive the percentages, but it looks like they kind of capped it at a max percentage of 9% for the large cities, and then went down by 2 percentage points. Well, no, actually not even that. So for the large cities, 9%, and then medium cities, 7%.
No, I'm sorry, Chair, Mr. President. I'm looking at option one, but I'm looking at the box where we have the total from the roundtable formula dues,
Mm-hmm.
and San Jose's percentage is 20%. And I'm assuming that's using the roundtable's percentage of how they came up with it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I don't have a basis to say, okay, that is, because what you were looking at, Mr. President, is
I was
what
looking
we
at
currently have.
2022. Yes, you're right.
So, but going up to what the proposed budget to bring us up to 270, San Jose's percentage would go up to 20%, and I don't know how that was derived. So if someone said, "Hey, how did you come up to 20% for San Jose and Morgan Hill only has 4%?" I couldn't tell you.
It's the
Oh,
per
that's a valid
capita
point.
fee though. Isn't it, Joanne? I thought you explained it. It's the per capita fee. I thought the question was, why did they decide to do it that way versus what it is?
So I see the per capita fee, and I'll look at Morgan Hill, it's 22,000. But in the box, I'm assuming that's the dues, right? That's what I'm talking about. So is that dues, it says 2023 roundtable formula dues, and I'll use Morgan Hill as an example. Morgan Hill, $11,693. It says 4%. Is that the per capita?
Yes. So you would be paying $11,000 per capita. That's how they did it.
So that's how we're deriving it at 270. So, but that's different from the roundtable per capita fee that's in the very column to the left of that.
Right. That's just the per capita fee. And then you take whatever your budget is, you divide it in to get your dues amount.
Okay. All right. So then so it's the per capita that's where the percentage of the total is. That's per capita.
Right.
All right. So now I can just see where the argument would be. Why San Jose would say, well, why am I paying 20% per capita? Why aren't the percentages per capita the same? Because we're talking about population, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the argument's going to be, why aren't they the same?
Because Rich, you took the per capita fee was based 10 cents for San Jose and 50 cents for all the other cities because San Jose is so large.
Again, but people aren't going to look at that, and they're going to want to know, well, why is there a 40%? Why is there a 40-cent spread? And I as treasurer, I can't give them an answer, and I think we can't put this executive board in a position where we're going to obviously get questions that we don't have answers for. I don't see that being a very viable position to take. That's it. I'm done, Chair.
Thank you. Great points. Do you have a follow-up, Rich, with those great points in terms of a path forward?
Well, again, I just looking at all the different options, I think it's the option one is the most equitable as far as the spread that we're talking about. But again, the same questions that I have are going to be raised by the members of the group, and if we as an executive board can't give them an answer, it's going to have a hard time. It's going to be a hard sell for any of these options, other than to say, look, this is how much we're losing. We need to make up this much money. We need to raise your dues by X. And the next question is going to be, why?
Right.
And that's a pun. That was a
How'd you
pun.
get
X and
there?
Y.
Yeah.
That's a pun.
Well, no, I like I said, great points. So what I'm looking at is, as far as the actual change or dollar amounts, I'm very comfortable with the new numbers, even with San Jose taking on a larger percentage. We just have to figure out a methodology of how we back into those numbers, so we can explain it. And Mariko, hopefully you have a brilliant suggestion for a path forward.
It sounds like we're coalescing around option one. And so let me just try a motion. I move that we recommend option one, and we use the time between now and Thursday to ask Joanne to reach out to, I believe it would have been either Chair Bernald, Steve Preminger, I think was pretty active with the county. And I think between those two, maybe we would have at least some hint of an explanation, because I think we like this distribution. We just need to be able to explain it. And then if there is no explanation, perhaps we, I would still recommend we move this one forward. And if there is no explanation, then we attach both of them, all three actually, and have the discussion that those were the three that we are looking at. So let's try that motion.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a
Was the
second?
motion for all three, Mariko? Or do you want to do just 1 and 3?
Just option one, if we can provide a complete explanation in the next week.
Okay.
Rich? You're on
I'll
mute.
wait till there's a second before I discuss.
Is there a second?
I'll second for purposes of discussion. Go ahead, Rich.
All right.
Thank you, Nisa. So as we're preparing this budget, and we're talking about bringing everyone up, I think it's going to also be difficult for some people when other cities, when we're asking everybody to give more, there's going to be 5 cities that are going to be giving less in a time where we are saying we are in a budgetary crisis as far as the association. So I think maybe as we go through this, again, I'm still leaning towards option one, but I don't think any city should pay less than they're currently paying. So if we raise the dues up of at least to par to what they were currently paying, then I think that may have an effect of lowering the percentages, like for San Jose or from some others. So it might make it a little bit more palatable for people if they're looking at straight percentages. But I don't think any city should pay less than they're paying now.
Okay, I mean, duly noted, and I'm sure Sarah will kick me under the table by saying what I'm about to say, but if San Jose is willing to take on, those reductions for those small cities, I don't see, other cities really having an issue with it. I mean, I could be wrong, but, effectively what we're saying is, we're going to give the small cities a break and the very small cities a break. And effectively San Jose with the other cities taking on a much smaller portion are willing to take it on. Mariko?
Actually, I'm in agreement with Rich. I think at the very minimum, those cities should just be the same amount. And I'm curious, if we were to make it the same amount and then just deduct, calculate what's the remaining and then distribute that increase to all the remaining cities. It adds more work to Joanne, but that might help offset the increases that are going to everyone. And so I would amend my motion to actually to have a different option, so that no city has a reduction. And so the 5 that are currently in the red, that would have a deduction, those would just carry forward. And then what's that differential would then be divided using this formula.
Okay. So that's an amendment to your motion.
Correct.
And Nisa, you, for the sake of discussion, second, do you
I
accept?
don't agree with the amendment, but for purposes of discussion, I'll say yes. I
All right.
accept it. Yes.
All right. Rich?
So just to comment on what you said, Mr. President, regarding the given the deference to small cities. So Morgan Hill's a small city, and our dues went up $2,000. Whereas another small city like Los Altos, they went down $460. So there's not a way that you could say, well, San Jose took this, but we're doing that because the small cities need a break. Morgan Hill's not getting a break. We're getting a $2,000 increase. So I think we just have to think about how we're going to message this.
No, excellent point. I don't want to forget about Morgan Hill. So
I won't let you.
Not with that
Nisa?
mayor they have.
Yeah. Nisa?
So I agree with Mariko and Rich on the optics of including my own city, taking a reduction. But as we all know, with dues, you need a formula. Like, we can't just haphazardly start moving numbers. So maybe what we can do is keep the formula, because we know what the formula is. We just don't know how they arrived at it. So keep the formula, and hopefully Joanne can talk to the folks Marika recommended and figure out how they arrived at this formula. So keep the formula as is. Then with regards to the 5 cities that would have a reduction because of the formula that was applied, we could do an asterisk next to those numbers where you put what the formula amount would be, and then you put bringing them back up to the amount from last year. And then what I actually would recommend doing with that differential is to put it in the reserve fund. Because by putting back those 5 cities to the amounts they paid last year, we're going to exceed the 270,000, which is not a bad thing. But because we have already done the budget, that extra amount, and I haven't calculated what that is, if we bring those 5 back to the original amount, whatever that is, we put it in the reserve. So the 270 would go up by that amount. But I think that's how we would have to do it. You keep the formula, and then for those 5, you do the asterisk explaining this is the formula amount, but we're putting them back to the original, and then deal with the differential. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, actually, I understood.
Okay.
That does. It came out to 11,000. And I think that would be good, because now we know we need a reserve. And so that's a more fiscally prudent way of taking this. Okay, so I will amend my motion one more time. I recommend that we move option 1 to the full board of directors. We request that Joanne reach out to former participant, the people that helped create this formula. And then the 5 cities that currently are receiving a deduction, they will just, what are we asking? Those amounts. Wait, now I'm confused. We're not asking for a reduction. We're going to
ask them to pay what they would have paid
correct
last year.
and that amount would go towards the reserve.
Correct.
Yes. Second.
Now, was that an enthusiastic second, or was that a second for the sake of discussion second?
Oh, that's a sincere second, even though it means my city under option 1 will be, but it's fine. I agree with the sentiment Rich and Mariko share.
Okay,
And with that, I call the question.
thank you. Auden?
Do we need to call for public comment?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Would Rania like to comment on this item? I don't see a response, so Auden?
All right, Abakoga.
Hi.
Abakoga, I. Constantine.
Aye.
Constantine, I. Flagger.
Yes.
Flagger, I. Jones.
Aye.
Jones, I. And Sayak.
Aye.
Sayak, I. With 5 ayes, the motion carries.
All right. Thank you for that. Now we are on to update on plans for the June general membership meeting.
And Kathy, Margaret has a question and I have a question on how to present this, the dues. So,
Oh, okay. Margaret?
Thanks, Debbie. I wanted to go back to what Nisa was suggesting and I did the directive for the treasurer, I guess, to look at all of this and come up with a new formula that is maybe more better reflective of where we are. I was thinking about how we came here, and part of the issue may be that our population growth has, it's right changed the numbers in terms of how big our cities or smaller cities are. So I think it makes sense to just do a refresh on our dues formula. So if I need to make a motion for that, I'd like to do that.
And I would second that, Margaret.
Okay. And Joanne, did you
yes, so presenting this is very important the optics, as you've mentioned. So I'm going to just put down option 1, but it'll just be an option over. So I'll have the dues that are currently out there. Do you want me to present option 3 using the same percentages so that they can see what they would be? Forget option 2, but have that there. And then my other question is on option 1, we're going to get rid of the round table. So it's just an option 1 formula. So I will not have the round table formula dues in that little box. We'll just have the amount. I'll have the per capita, and I'll have the amount so that, for example, Los Altos Hills will go back to what they had before. So they will be paying, what were they paying before? They were paying 6,000. So they will be doing 6,000 again, instead of, wait a minute, I'm confused now myself looking at these numbers. Yeah, so instead of 2,500, they will be back to the 6,000. But do you want that percentage of the total, and do you want that change? Or do you just want me to just have the new formula and the new dues and forget those other 2 columns to the right?
Good question. Well, for the first question, I don't know if we need to show option 3. You can keep it in our back pocket, and
Okay.
if they really want to dive deep into details or understand what they would have paid with a different formula or methodology, we can present it, but I don't want to just throw it out there.
Okay. All righty, so we're just going to do the option 1 as an option for dues formula.
Hmm.
And we're going to show that LAFCO population. We're going to show, an option formula. I am going to find out how they did that. And then we will show what the dues will be. Do you want the percent of the total? Because I can, once I put the new numbers in there, we'll see the percent of the total. Do you want the change from fiscal year 2022, or should I just leave that column off?
Rich, you had a
I
comment?
think for sake of comparison, just so that people see, I think we should leave it.
Okay. And just
Especially
change the
since
numbers.
there won't be any red on there, because if the cities that would have reductions, those will go to 0.
Right, exactly.
So I
Okay,
think just for comparison's sake, but bringing up that point where it says roundtable formula per capita fee.
Yeah.
Are you planning on leaving that? Because we can't change it and say option 1 per capita fee, can we?
well, I'll try to figure out a name and maybe I should pass it by you guys once I talk to Steve and Mary Lynn.
Because I know that under fiscal year in the box where it says fiscal year 23 roundtable formula dues, we're changing that to option 1 formula dues,
Right,
correct?
right.
But
Why,
when
if
it-
we're
where
only
it
gonna
says
present
round-
one, if we were only gonna present one, we don't even need to call it option 1. It's called the proposed
Well, we
budget.
have you're also going to allow option 2, is that correct? To be seen? I thought we were dropping option 3, but you were going to allow option 1, 2. No, we're not going to give them an option 2.
That's not what I
Okay.
understood.
Well, then we do have to come up with a name then.
How
Because
about
when we were
proposed-
discussing it originally, it was supposed to be, we were changing from roundtable to option 1 formula.
Yeah. But since it says we're only gonna propose one budget, we're gonna keep the other two, or particularly option 3, in our back pocket in case people really just want to go deep in terms of, what the differences are.
Okay.
But
Then
why
do we
don't we
want
just call the
to,
proposed? How about a catchy name like the proposed budget?
then do we want to just get rid of the center 2 columns? Which is which was the which I guess was part of how the roundtable got their
Right.
formulas
So,
based on
so I think
population.
I think you wanted to say the per capita formula per capita fee. And then you go over to the next one, again, get rid of roundtable, formula dues, percent and the change.
Well, if everyone's looking at option 1, I'm looking at option 1. And if we were just to take the box, move it over to the fiscal year and have it, and that center 2 columns, just get rid of those, the LAFCO and the roundtable formula per capita.
Now,
And
I
just
think
show-
you need those to be able to explain how we got the other numbers. Yeah,
What numbers?
what their dues are going to be.
Well, I thought we didn't know the percentages, how those percentages were.
Oh, I know
derived.
how those percentages came about. That's just using a Excel sheet and putting it in. That was easy.
Okay.
Rich, what I did is I did the per capita. Then you take whatever you want for your budget and you divide that in, and that's how you get it. And then I figured out what the percentage was. So I can do that. That's an easy.
Okay. All
Hey,
right.
Joanne, I know we've already voted on this, but for the sake of everybody having clarity, can you just walk us through each column of
Okay.
options?
I will.
So I know the far left, it's the current
Right.
due structure and percentage.
So what you do is
2022.
right. So the third column is the population from LAFCO. And as Margaret said, these are the latest figures. I actually, first of all, started going to the city's websites, and they were different. Some had 2020, and some still had their 2010 census figures. So I found the LAFCO one, which is what LAFCO's using, and it's up to date. So I used that. Then I used the per capita, 10 cents for San Jose, 50 cents for the other cities, and you just work it out and you get that. Now we're just going to be calling it the formula per capita. And then the next column over is what the dues would be by taking 270 into the number. And then you just figure out the percent. And I'm going to get rid of the change for the last column. We're just going to get rid of that column unless you want it. You want that column?
I think we should keep the.
Okay, and that's what Rich said is then we would have, like, for Los Altos, it would be 0.
Right.
So that percentage change may change a little bit. So those numbers for those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities will change a tiny bit.
And San Jose and Milpitas didn't participate in the roundtables, but they calculated a formula anyway.
Well, no, I just, it didn't matter who participated and who didn't. It's just a formula that I took that they used in order to calculate those cities. They also had cities in Santa Cruz County, and they also had the county. It's just a formula that they
Oh,
applied.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, got it.
So that's why we're going to take out the roundtable, because I agree with you. It's a real red herring.
Okay. Nisa? Oh, no, Rich, well, Nisa had her hand up. Rich?
So looking at Morgan Hill, how does Morgan Hill arrive at the $11,693?
Because your population is now up. It used to be a smaller population. You've grown.
No,
So now
I understand that, but
Yeah.
walk me through what is the X and the Y? What times what equals $11,693?
44,513 times 0.5.
Does not equal $11,693.
No, it gets you to 22,257.
Yeah,
Then you take the amount of that you want for your budget, which I took 270. And then you.
oh, and that's how you
apply-
got the,
Yes.
but okay, all right, so you multiplied it, the 22,000 by 270 and got 4%?
No. Then you take the 270 for all of the, I should send you the spreadsheet. I could send you the spreadsheet, Rich. Of
No, don't
the,
send me any more spreadsheets. all the thing, trying to put everything that I've gotten together was just like, it was way too confusing.
Right. Basically what you do is you take this number over here at 513, you say, I want to get to 270. So you divide that out and then you get the numbers.
Okay,
So for Morgan Hill, Rich, 22,000 is to 513 as 11,000 is to 270.
got it. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisa. Very clear. I like it.
I'm
Also-
a lawyer,
also,
Chappie,
Rich,
but I do
also-
know some math.
Hey, I'm impressed by an attorney. Also, Rich, it looks like Morgan Hill is categorized as a small city, but you're like a large small city. If that makes you feel any better.
Okay.
Well, the cities, I think this was a very old small city categorizing thing that they had from a long time ago when the cities were a lot different. The populations have changed.
Yeah, and we need to be prepared for what makes a small city and what makes a medium city a medium city. that question.
Right.
You're a small city with a big city mentality. How's that? Hey, Nisa, you want to beat this horse a little more?
I will, just one last whip. So Joanne, on the column where we have formula dues, that breakdown. So for example, for Los Altos Hills, where we're going back to the 6,523,
Right.
and then in the change, it will be 0.
Correct.
That's where I put the asterisk. And then at the bottom, just explain the formula would have actually been 2,251, but we went back to the 22 dues, because if someone is really putting pen to paper and using the formula, they won't arrive, as you know, at 6,523. So we just need to asterisk that amount and explain it.
Should I just put the asterisk, for these 5 cities, last year's dues?
Correct.
would
The
mean the same.
formula would have
Yeah.
been X, but we're using the old
But
dues.
maybe we won't even, that gets complicated. Maybe the formula is not applied. We just assess the same
That's
as
even
last
better.
year.
I like that.
All right. Are we good? The horse is dead. It's very dead.
And we're only 40 minutes over time on this one item.
Do
Hey,
we have a motion in a second on a vote?
so there was a motion and we had a second. So Auden. Well, Auden, I will ask if there are any members of the public who would like to comment on that last motion. And since Rania has not raised her hand. Let's have a vote.
And can we have the motion restated for the record?
It's
And
to-
Margaret, before you restate the motion, just two clarifying points directing the treasurer and Edie, and I don't know if you wanted to have a report back date.
Sure. I mean, we're not gonna make it for this budget, right? So, I mean, I would say back in September timeframe. So, the motion was to direct the treasurer and the new acting executive director to work on a new formula for membership dues and to report back to the executive board in September.
Second.
All right. All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Not seeing any. Auden?
Okay. Fliger,
Yes.
Fliger, I, Abakoga.
Aye.
Abakoga, I, Jones.
Aye.
Jones, I, Sayok.
Aye.
Sayok, I, and Constantine.
Aye.
Constantine, I, with 5 ayes, the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. On to the next item, which is our June general membership meeting. Flyers attached, save the date. We are in the process of finalizing all of the details. We're trying to get everything under our budget of $65 per person. But we have a really strong speaker in Russell Hancock. And so he's going to present for 15 to 20 minutes and then take questions and answers. We're going to have tours of the Winchester Mystery House. We're going to have optional axe throwing, which is a lot of fun if you're brave enough. And we're really excited. It's going to be a fun event, and it's going to be great to have everybody come together and enjoy each other's company. And I'm going to go to the public and see if there's any members of the public who'd like to comment on this item. And any questions from the board?
Have
Seeing-
anyone done axe throwing besides you?
Yeah, Rania has done it. Other members of the team, my team, have done it.
Joanne has done it? Okay.
No, I haven't done it.
Yeah, it actually is fun. It's kind of scary at first because you're throwing this deadly weapon at a target, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's pretty cool.
I just need to know where to stand and away from who.
Trust me, they probably spend about a half an hour with safety instructions before they even allow you to pick up anything. And so it's pretty thorough.
Well, I was just going to add that if there's going to be an extra add-on fee for the axe throwing and for the tours.
Yeah.
And then Auden, yeah, you have the Eventbrite account.
I do.
And so Rania, I will work with you on getting that account and getting it set up so that we can send out the information to the whole membership.
That would be great.
Okay, Nisa?
Thanks, President. Joanne, I just wanted to clarify what you just said about an additional fee for the tour. Are you saying in addition to each member paying $65 to attend, if they want to participate in those two things, they would have to pay more?
So the axe throwing is definitely optional. Still trying to work it where the tour is built into the fee. So it hasn't been finalized yet. So we don't want to necessarily state that, but we're trying to work it into it because I think it would be great. First of all, it would just enhance the whole experience so much. And there are people that have gone on the tour like 20 years ago or whatever, and it's like, okay, I've been there, done that, but it's a whole different experience now. So we want to encourage everybody to go on the tour. So we're trying to figure out how we can just have it incorporated into the overall $5 fee. But
I think that would be great. That it's already included in the 65.
That's no guarantee, but it's something I'm working on. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions on that, now we're on to the agendas for the meeting in May. And pretty straightforward, the consent agenda, consideration of approval of the budget as we discussed. Are we gonna do the legislative action committee update? I didn't think so. Yeah, so that Joanne needs to be removed. The city manager's update, and Sarah's gonna do an amazing job on that. And then the executive director update, and then joys and challenges. So it should be a pretty straightforward, relatively fast meeting, unless we have a very robust discussion on the budget. And Nisa?
Do we have quorum, President? I know that was an issue.
Yes, Joanne, who, I think we lost Joanne, had the most recent numbers. I'll have to get back to you on that question, Nisa. Any other questions? All right, and do any of the members of the public or member of the public have any questions, Rania? Okay, so next is the City Manager Association update. Sarah, we're gonna give you probably about 30 minutes at the meeting. So do you have any idea what you want to talk about for 30 minutes?
There's so much in this agenda. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a really good day. The last Santa Clara County City Managers Association meeting was held on April 13th. And there's a few topics to report out. They received a presentation from the Silicon Valley Clean Energy group, and the focus there was around strategies to be carbon neutral by 2030. They spent some time reviewing the state budget and specifically had a conversation around the historic reserves, which I see here when they discussed this, it was at about 36 billion, but with the Senate budget plan that just came out earlier this week, that's up to 43 billion. But they had a discussion around that, as well as the expected May revise, which should be out next week. There was also a few reports on from the Next Gen Committee and the League of California Cities. I believe that the bill that they focused on for the update from the League of California Cities was SB 1100, which would be related to the modernization of the Brown Act, related to disruptions of meetings. And lastly, the main announcement was related to their next meeting in June, which is going to be a joint meeting with the San Mateo County City Managers. And I believe that's all for that meeting.
Great, thank you, Sarah. skipped one step in this meeting. I should have asked for a motion to approve the proposed agenda for May. So can we check that box, please? And
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And Margaret?
Kathy, I forgot to, this might be an addition, but wanted to, I guess, ask if you would like an update on our recruitment for an acting ED, where we are with that at the board meeting, or how you would like to handle that.
Wow, that's a good question. Are we at a point where we can actually provide some meaningful updates for at the meeting?
Yes, so I mean, I should let you all know, we have a job description and the together, and we've sent it out to a few folks who we knew had inquired or were might be interested. We have not yet posted it. I think we were just trying to see what we could get from our network. And there is a potential candidate. So that's sort of where we're at. I'll know more, I think, next Monday or Tuesday.
Right.
So my hope is that by the June meeting, or we may have to call a special meeting to do this, we might be able to approve or put a candidate up for approval.
Yeah, what we could do is, we can actually incorporate that in the executive director update.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah. So
Thank
Joanne, we can provide an update on, the search in your update.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Good suggestion. All right, so we had
Margaret said, because I lost the internet, so I'll have to have Margaret say it
I'll
again.
follow up with you. I'll follow up with you and
Okay,
provide a write-up if you need.
okay, great, thank you.
great. Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second for the to approve the agenda. So on.
All right, I will now call the roll. Jones,
Aye.
Jones, aye. Sayak,
Aye.
Sayak, aye. Flagger,
Yes.
Flagger, aye. Constantine,
Aye.
Constantine, aye. And Abakoga,
Hi.
Abakoga, aye. With 5 ayes, the motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next is the executive director update.
I apologize for losing the internet 1,000 times today. So,
Hey, I'm right there with you. Don't worry about it.
but I do have one question. Are we putting forward the option 2 budget also as it stands, or are you making any more corrections?
I'm sorry, Joanne, what was your question?
Are we going to put forward for the board on Thursday the option 2 budget with the proposed as it is, or are we changing anything more on it?
We're gonna have option 2 in a safely secured in your guest bedroom, and only break it out if people are demanding it. Otherwise,
Okay,
it's not gonna see the light of day.
okay. No. We're talking about the budget though, the one that has the expenses and the revenues. So what I have is that we're doing the new acting ED, including the clerk, IT support, and bookkeeping.
Oh, okay, that I'm sorry.
Right. And then the dues increase of 120 per year, we'll just say that. And but were you going to change anything else? And we're going to change the contingency because we're going to add the amount of money from the dues. So that will go up for the 5 cities. They're paying the same dues. So,
Yes.
did I catch it all? I just want to make sure. I lost the internet in and out, so I'm not sure
No,
what I was missing.
I got you now. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
And one thing I didn't hear, Margaret, but when do you think the new acting ED will take over? What is your timeline?
My hope is if this works out, we would be able to approve someone at our June board meeting. So we probably will need you, Joanne, until the end of your contract.
That's okay. I just didn't know if you were going to have a special meeting or if we needed to build that in during the general membership meeting or how you were going to work that.
Guess that as Gary might have some.
Yeah, we may need to have a special board meeting anyhow, related to obviously a closed session item. So I don't want to do it at the same time as our annual meeting. So I'll work with you, Joanne, and
Okay.
I'll coordinate with Chappie, make sure he's okay with the approach. But I don't know anything solid right now. Otherwise, I would tell you that. But
Okay.
yeah, well, I'll work with you and Chappie and decide whether you want to do it, and then we might have to do a doodle poll to see who's available and when. But I would not recommend doing it the same night. I don't want to have something serious that night. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Lisa?
Our President Joe's, just one other thing you may have missed, Joanne, on the budget, the proposed budget. If you could clarify that we're increasing the budget for the ED's salary. So we're increasing the budget amount, not necessarily increasing the salary, because I can see that triggering questions about, why are we paying someone that much more when we really don't know? So it's a budget increase, as Margaret explained it, as opposed to definitively saying we're going to pay this person, 60,000 more than what the current budgeted amount is.
Okay, so that's somehow or other, I'll just say the amount being budgeted is just a upper cap. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Would you guys like me to pass this one more time by you real quickly over the weekend so you can look at it before I send it out, or?
Yes, please.
Okay,
That'd be great.
okay.
Just make sure to not do reply all if you have comments.
Okay,
Yeah, just reply to me.
great.
Check.
Thank you. All right, Joanne, if there's nothing else, we're going to go to public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to make a comment? Rania, this is your last opportunity. If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Happy Mother's Day. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
Take care.
Okay.